Welcome back to the Go on the Match podcast. Today I'm very excited to be joined by Keg from the Magpie channel, where we're going to be discussing the official takeover of Newcastle Football Club by Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund. Keg, thanks so much, mate, for giving up your time and coming on the podcast.
Not a problem, mate. Happy to be on. Happy to talk about Newcastle in a positive light for once, because I don't think we've spoke about it many times before.
Well, I was going to say, you came on the podcast last year and we discussed your time growing up as a Newcastle fan. So if any listeners that haven't gotten that, go back through the archives and listen to that, because there's some really good stories on there. But Keg, as I said at the start, Newcastle United have now been taken over. Talk to me, mate. How are you feeling?
It's a bit too soon, really, to contemplate this, because like things aren't going to change overnight. Like, we've got a game next weekend, like against Spurs, who's going to be a bit of a tough test. They've started the season well, but the last 3 games have been a bit bad. But currently, we still have Steve Bruce, and we've still got the same old players that we've had for the past couple of seasons. So things aren't going to change overnight, but we've got a smile on our face again. That's all we've been asking for so many years, because we all know what Mike Ashley's put us through. We had a little bit of a moment, like, people don't understand like why we liked Rafa so much, because the football wasn't too dissimilar to Steve Bruce. Like, the results weren't great, but with Rafa, we always had a bit of hope, a little bit of optimism, which we don't get with Steve Bruce. Like, we always thought if we got taken over with Rafa Benitez, would be in good stead, because Rafa would know how to spend it wisely and put us right, get us on the right path. But with Steve Bruce, none of that. So now we've got the right ownership. We need to get the manager sorted, but like, it's positivity, something to look forward to. And like, it's not going to be an overnight thing. Nobody's expecting us to win the league next season even. Like, it's going to be a long plan. Like, we need to correct a lot of Mike Ashley's wrongs, because the club has been rotten from the core for 15 years. So these guys have got a lot of work to do, but they've got the money to do it. So I'm happy to be patient. I'm not expecting miracles in 1 year, 2 years, but like I say, optimism, hope, a future to be happy about. So that's all we've been asking for. So couldn't be happier at the minute, mate.
Yeah, like you say, leading on to Mike Ashley there. I think it's 14 years, I think I'm right in saying,
yeah,
owner of the club. And, we know how much fight Newcastle fans have had to endure to get him out of the club. Just tell me your emotions now, just seeing the back of him, like your initial emotions about that.
Honestly, that's the key thing. Like, I know everybody's going to look at who's buying it, and Newcastle's now in the world media. The spotlight's shining down on us as we're now the richest club in the world. But that was never what we wanted or even expected. All we wanted was Mike Ashley to be gone. As he's been dragging this club through the mud for so long. We've been protesting and almost rioting at occasions over the past few years to get this man out of the club. So it's like, St. James's isn't what it used to be. Like, people like you, like fans from across the country, across the world even, will know what a St. James's Park atmosphere is like, what Newcastle fans, what our passion and like home atmosphere, even away ends when we go down to other grounds. You know what we're like.
Yeah.
Going to St. James's over the past few years it's been awkward, because it just hasn't been the same. Like, we've got no love for the club anymore. Like most of us just don't even care about football anymore, because it's been that bad. But so all we've wanted for the past few years is to get this man who's taken all of that away from us out of the club, so we can have a better day. So that's the key thing for me. He's gone. I remember a few years ago, Amanda Staveley, who has been a key part in this takeover, who now owns 10% of the club, she's been trying to get a deal done to take over for Newcastle for a long time. I think she first came on the table with a deal with Peter Kenyon, but they needed funds. So between her and Peter Kenyon, they didn't even have the funds. But that was just like, seemed like a hot thing on the table. Like, shit, like they came up to Newcastle, they watched a game. I can't remember which one it was, but we were just so excited at the prospect of someone else taking over, even though they didn't have the funds.
Yeah.
Like, if that deal had gone through, we might even have been in a worse situation than Mike Ashley. If people haven't got the funds to buy the club, how much can they invest?
Yeah.
But even then, we were like, oh, get in, Mike Ashley might be gone. But now, like, let's say, like, it hasn't even been, we haven't even considered it being the richest club in the world. Obviously, we have thought about it over the past 18 months because it's been such a long ongoing saga. But like, that was number one, get Mike Ashley out. And the fact that we are now the richest club in the world is a dream that nobody could have envisioned. Like, it's mad to say, sit here and think, because I think the news only broke about 24 hours ago. So 48 hours ago, if I thought I was going to be sitting here saying that Newcastle United are the richest club in the world, I'd ask you to punch a square in the face, because I must be on something. It's not right. It's still weird to get my head around, and it's going to take a long time to even process. Like, when we get the first big name signing through the door, even that's going to feel like, Newcastle. Why are these players signing for Newcastle? But that's going to be a year or 2, 3, 4 down the line, but which I can't wait for it to happen.
You touched on there about the sort of atmosphere it's being like at St James's Park over the last couple of years, under Mike Ashley's reign. And we touched on it last year and when you came on the podcast that, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Newcastle and the fans. They're very similar to my club in Liverpool and our fans in terms of passion and, working class people. I absolutely love that. So just seeing the atmosphere from the fans gathering around St James's yesterday for that news of the takeover, just tell us how much of a relief is it? I'd imagine, the fans as a whole, the whole fan base, how that'll lessen the toxic atmosphere around the ground that you touched on there. Do you think that do you think that'll be a quick thing or like a steady thing?
In terms of the atmosphere, I think it's going to be an immediate thing. Like I say, if you've seen the news yesterday, all the fans, there was thousands of fans outside St James's. Like, we had to do a massive cleanup this morning because we left it looking like a festival. There was like crushed beer cans all over the place. So I know like Amanda Stavely and her husband came to the club this morning, so I'm pretty sure that's not the first thing they want to see walking into St James's Park. Thousands of beer cans and broken bottles scattered all over the place. So, but yeah, the news the club put out the Spurs game next weekend has sold out. I can't remember the last time a Newcastle game sold out. Like, let's say, we've got a hope and an optimism that we've never had before. The last home game I managed to get to was a little while ago now, because I've been just a little bit busy with things, was the 2-2 draw with Southampton. And it was so toxic. Like, it was almost upsetting, because that was the first time we've been able to really get the pressure on Steve Bruce, because last season, no fans. And I think the first game, West Ham, was okay because we scored a couple of goals in the first half. But that game, it was like the first half was as bad as I've ever seen it. Like, the performance from the players was drastic. So it was the first time I've been in the stadium where it's been full capacity, where we've been getting on Steve Bruce's back, and it was so toxic. But a thing that I've seen today, which there's a group called War Flags. So they're like, I know, like at Liverpool at Anfield, especially on like European nights, like you do up the cop end, like draped with flags and stuff. Like, when Rafa was here, like, we had loads of them. You can Google Newcastle flags and you can see all the work that War Flags have done over the past couple of years. I think it is. They've been boycotting, and I think they may have been a big part of the lessened atmosphere at St James's, not being there with their flags, displaying stuff. So they said that they're going to stay away until Mike Ashley sells up. So they made a statement today that they're coming back. They're going to plan a big display for the Spurs game. And it's going to be a sellout, first time in a long time. It's going to be a sellout with the flags and stuff. So immediately the atmosphere will change. Like I say, there's going to be a hope and an optimism from the fans. The performances aren't going to change. I don't know if Steve Bruce is going to take charge of that Spurs game. Hopefully not. But if he does, or it's somebody else, I know performances aren't going to change. We haven't won a game this season. We're 19th in the league, rooted in the relegation battle, which I think we will be for the rest of the season. Performances may not improve too much. We've got a January transfer window and hopefully a change of manager on the horizon. So I think we'll survive. I think we'll be quite comfortable. I think we've got a good enough squad to survive. It's just the way we've been managed. Like, we don't deserve to be in the Premier League the way we've been over the past few years, but with the starting 11 on paper, it's more than good enough to be nowhere near that bottom three. I think we're as good a team in that bottom half as anybody down there. So just a little bit of, like I say, changing coaching. If we can keep players fit, people like Callum Wilson, who's been out for a while, so Maximin, our key players, if we can keep them fit, better coaching, we'll be absolutely sound. So we can move on next year and have a bit of hope. But yeah, so like I say, like, the atmosphere is going to change immediately, while performances on the pitch probably aren't.
Yeah. And you touched on before about Amanda Stavely. She's been sort of heading this takeover from what I've seen, looking in from the outside. Can you sort of let us know what sort of her role will be going forward under this new ownership?
Yeah, so I think I don't entirely know like exactly, because there's quite a few people regarding like PIF. So we've got the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and various other people within PIF that I think are taking a role. We've got the Reuben brothers as well from London. They're going to own 10%,
Okay.
and Amanda Staveley's going to own 10%. So I think she's going to be more day to day. Like she spoke, like she's been like the forefront of this. She's been like the face of this takeover. She was on Sky Sports last night, and I think again this morning, speaking to Keith Downey. And Keith asked if she's going to be based in Newcastle, which she said she is. Like she's a Yorkshire girl herself, so she's a northerner. So she's going to be heading up most of this, because I don't know how much day-to-day involvement the Saudis are going to have. I don't suppose any of them are going to be Newcastle based. So I think she's going to be like the front runner, her and her husband. I think they're going to take day-to-day running of the club. So like she's been trying to get this done for a while. She spoke very, very highly of the club and the history and the fans. And before this, she was trying to get this deal done with other consortiums, other potential bidders. Like she seems over the moon to have this finally done now. And if she's happy with this, then so are we. Like if she's been this desperate to get this done for us, for the fans, then she's already our hero. Like we're over the moon that she managed to rope the Saudis in. However, she managed to do it and make us the richest club in the world. Like we owe everything to her, really. So yeah, absolutely buzzing with whatever she does. Like she's got the keys to Newcastle now.
And I think something I picked up on during this whole thing is such an important thing that the new ownership had mentioned that they want to improve things like, the training facilities in and around the ground for the community, and like the academy and things like that. And you've seen Man City do the similar thing over the years. It's worked well for them, to be fair. Is that sort of statement something that really pleases you as well as a fan?
Absolutely. That's the main thing for me, really. Obviously, we know like the struggles Newcastle have had on the field. But Newcastle's been rotten from the core. Like there's so much to be done. Like that's why I said before, I'm patient for results on the field. Like as long as we stay in the Premier League, we'll get the right players and the right coaches. That'll come in time. People talking about winning the Premier League and stuff, I'm not even remotely interested. I'm just interested in a future and the positivity that's going to come with this. But like the stadium, we're talking about the famous St. James's Park Stadium, rich in history. It's falling apart. It's so outdated. I'm not sure what it's like in the away end, but in like the main end, in the concourse and stuff, it's like brown brick. It's just boring. There's like tiny little TV monitors. Like there's actually a picture being going around where there's a small TV monitor with like 4 screw holes like either side of it. So it's like they've taken down a bigger monitor and put a smaller one right in its place, and it's still got the screw holes where you can see the bigger one used to be. But like I think we've got a new training ground in about 2003, 2004, which hasn't been touched. Now, I've seen Brighton's got a new complex, which looks amazing. Even Sunderland's down in League One looks better than what ours is. Like the training ground's been completely neglected. The stadium's been neglected. It's covered in moss. It's minging. Like it needs so much work done. The youth academy, we haven't really produced anyone in recent years other than the Longstaff brothers, really, and Sean's massively questionable. Matty's out on loan at the minute. And before that, you're looking at the likes of Paul Dummett and Andy Carroll. Like, how long ago did Liverpool sign Andy Carroll? It was like 2010. like we just don't produce. Like, there hasn't been the funds. There's been no care or attention to the club. So that's the main thing for me. And regarding like the community as well, like Man City done that. Like the Sheikh Mansour put a lot of money into the community of Manchester. But you can also talk about Leicester as well. Like rest in peace to their owner, died a few years ago. Like that's why people were more devastated. Like around the country, I'm sure you were as well, as much as I was, as much as any Leicester fan was devastated with that news.
Yeah.
Like not only from taking Leicester from League One and winning the Premier League against all odds, but like he invested in like hospitals and schools and put a lot of money into Leicestershire, not just Leicester City. And that's what we need. Like Newcastle, it's a big city. Like you've had a few nights out there and Sam Jackson stuff. You know what Newcastle's like. Like it's not a bad city, but it could definitely do with a little bit of investment. And we're not even asking it from football. Like you don't even really think about it. If people like the Leicester and Man City owners are going to come and invest in the city as much as the club, great. Like nobody expects that from a football owner. So if they're going to come and do that, that's an added bonus. That's great. But in terms of the football, yeah, like they've got a lot of work to do. They need to start from the ground up, and if trophies and like Mbappe, people keep talking about like world-class players and managers, if that doesn't come for another few years, I'm not bothered, because like we've got a future to think about. We need to start building the club up, because it's been knocked down like from the club. Like you grew up knowing like the entertainers era, the Bobby Robson era, when Shearer was one of the best strikers in the world. Like we're a million miles from that, and that's all because of what Mike Ashley's done, the sheer neglect of the club. So these guys have got a lot of money to invest to build this club back up to what it once was and make it greater than what it previously was.
And obviously, I think it's widely reported that the new ownership coming in, it'll sort of coincide with, the potential sacking of Steve Bruce. Mm-hmm. Again, how much of a relief is that also that you'll be bringing in a different manager, a different style of play? And I suppose another question, is there anyone that you have in mind personally, someone that you'd like to see come through?
Well, yeah, it is a massive relief to get Steve Bruce out. Like, he's took a lot of the criticism over the past couple of years, which is warranted, in my opinion. Like, we know the root of all evil, it has been Mike Ashley. Any owner with any ambition in the Premier League wouldn't even appoint Steve Bruce. If it was anyone that's just come up, if it was like Norwich or Watford, if they appointed Steve Bruce, I'd be like, oh, sorry, lads. Like, nobody deserves Steve Bruce, man. Like, he's an absolute dinosaur. He hasn't got a clue. He's got a track record. He is statistically the Premier League's worst manager in history with his win percentage. Like, so, like, the way he's been operating things, even the way he handles himself in the media, he comes across a right idiot, man.
Yeah.
Like, we don't deserve it. He hasn't got a clue about... He's openly admitted to not having tactics and stuff. So, like, I'm over the moon to get him out the door. Like, as soon as that comes around, the better. But who's going to replace him? I don't know. Currently, I don't care, because I think anything literally would be an improvement. Like, any one of our older managers, like Chris Hughton, who struggled this season in the Championship at Forest, I'd take him back. I'd take literally anybody at the minute. Like, anybody, I think, is an improvement on Steve Bruce. Giving a young manager a chance, like a Michael Carrick, like he's a local lad, being like assistant at Man United for a few years. Like, anybody will do it in the short term. I think that's the best way to go about it at the minute. Like, we're going to talk about who we could get. I'm not diving into any names. Like, let's say, I think anybody's an improvement. I think if they're going to do things right, get the right guy. I think that'll take time. Hopefully, they may have already had that time. Let's say it's been about an 18-month ongoing saga. So within that time, you'd have thought they'd already have a shortlist and might already have things set in motion behind the scenes that we don't know about. But I'd be happy to wait, because some managers are still going to be in a contract. Like take your guy, Jurgen Klopp, for example. He's out of contract at the end of the year.
Yeah.
He hasn't signed a new one yet. So if we can set like a pre-agreement, like what Jose Mourinho done last year with Roma, he signed an agreement before the season was over. So if we can appoint, like even Graham Jones, like Graham Jones is a very good coach in our backroom staff at the minute, helped England get to the final of the Euros. I'd be okay with him being our interim manager until the end of the season, while we'll work in the background to employ a potential suitor, whether it's Klopp or Conte has been spoke about, but I think Conte said today he's not going to come to Newcastle with, well, anybody in the Premier League unless he thinks he can win a Premier League title straight away. So, yeah, whoever it's going to be, we can fish for somebody. Nagelsmann, Ten Hag. I've heard Steven Gerrard's been named a few times, but all these guys are still in contract. So as long as they're going to work behind the scenes, if it takes a few months, as long as they're going to be there for the first, whenever the start of the next season starts, like the 1st of July, and as long as we've got somebody lined up for the 1st of July with a transfer budget and transfer targets to reshape this club from the summer, the near future, I'm not really too concerned about, as long as, I say, we get Steve Bruce out and progress. So, yeah, Graham Jones for now is good enough for me. I think he's an improvement on Steve Bruce. And then, take the next few months to really fish for the right person, someone who's going to be the manager for 5 to 10 to 15 years and start winning some trophies with us.
Yeah, it's a big thing about it as well, just being able to compete again, because for so long it's almost been like you've just been in the league to exist rather than, competing, and, cup runs. You boys usually seem to go out quite early. Is just being able to compete again going to be a big thing for you?
Absolutely, yeah. Like we shouldn't be anywhere near that bottom 3. there's always a comparison between Rafa and Steve Bruce. Like, people don't realize that Rafa was on such a big wage, he didn't get much of a transfer budget, whereas Steve Bruce was probably underpaid. So now we can afford to go for the likes of Callum Wilson and Alan Saint-Maximin and spend 40 million on Joe Linton. Like, there's just a difference there. So yeah, like, we just haven't been able to compete even in the bottom half, which is not where anybody wants to be. Nobody wants to exist. Nobody wants to be there just to make up the numbers and aim for 16th, 17th every year, as we've been doing. Like, we believe we should be better than that. I know people get a misconception with Newcastle, like, especially like over the past few years, going, oh, they're whinging, like, at least they're still in the Premier League. They think they want to be in the top four, they want to be winning the title. Nobody said that. Even back in the Kevin Keegan era, we still didn't win nothing. But just to be competing again, even in the top 10, that's where we want to be, really. Like, if we can battle for that, whatever it's called, the Europa B League or whatever the crack is, where you finish 8th and still get into competition. I don't even know what that's called anymore. But just to be in and around that bracket, like, knocking on the door, not being afraid of playing teams like Liverpool and like Man City, because when we come to play them, you think, oh, Christ, this could be like 5-6-0. Like, as long as we're going to go into games like that and think, we're going to give these a go again, like we did like in like 2004 under Bobby Robson, back in like 97 with Kevin Keegan. That's where we want to be. Like, it's winning trophies further down the line. Yeah, that's great. But just competing, just having a bit of faith and optimism in the team, just thinking that we can go into games and actually win, not going into teams like Watford and thinking, oh, I'd take a draw here. Yeah, like, that's basically what we're doing at the minute. It's like, we're just looking point for point, just trying to survive. And it's boring. It's really not good to watch. Like, the entertainment value, like Keegan's entertainers, like, this is just Brucey's survivors. Like, we're just literally just trying to finish 17th every year, and it's crap as a fan. Like, what? Like, we're so unenthused by games at the minute. I know most Newcastle fans just can't be bothered anymore. That's why the atmosphere at St James's has just been so drastic. Like, we haven't sold out in a long, long time, and it's understandable. Like, it's not fun to watch. Like, you want to be entertained by football. You want to go to games, see your team perform well, score some goals, 3 points, go have some beers. With Newcastle, like the last game I went to, Southampton, I went for a few beers beforehand with some of the lads. And just like, as soon as you walk through the turnstiles at St James's, your mood just drops. Like, it's like so quick. You're thinking, why am I here? Like, why did I even bother coming here? Like, I should have just stayed up with the lads. Like, we're having a good day. It was like a sunny day. Like, coming here just puts a fucking dampener on your mood. Like, it's not great. So yeah, like, just as long as we can start competing, like, step by step, break top 10, 8, 6, 4. If it's a 10-year plan, then fantastic. Just as long as things are changing and looking on the up.
So obviously the feeling amongst the fan base is widely that of relief, happiness, and just wondering, is there anything you're particularly worried about at all with the takeover?
That's why I'm saying I want to kind of take things slowly and do things organically. I think if we rush into it too much, because we can't afford it, if the owners want to go out and buy a manager out of that contract, or go in January and look at getting like Mbappe and Haaland and stuff, it might not be good for us. I have seen recently that we could spend about 200 million because Mike Ashley's put us actually in good financial stead, like financial fair play. Wouldn't get involved if we spent 200 million in one window, which is good to know. But yeah, I don't really want to do it straight away. Like, if you think like Man City, like, they signed a couple of our old boys, like Craig Bellamy and Shea Given, when they got taken over, and Gareth Barry. Like, you look to like experience, like, people that's done the Premier League before. Going out getting foreigners can often be a bit of a risk. Like, not everybody takes to the Premier League. We've seen with the likes of like Higuain and Morata and people like that, Falcao, Di Maria, didn't hit the ground running in the Premier League. So that's a slight concern. But the biggest thing is, like, everybody's kind of criticized this deal, saying Newcastle fans shouldn't want this deal because of the Saudis, because of their human rights record. And we just don't really want to be tarnished with us. Like, as fans, we can't control anything. Like, people are slandering us for being happy about this takeover because of who they are. Like, we've been through so much in the past few years. We're just happy to see a brighter day. Like I said before, I didn't care who was going to take over as long as it wasn't Mike Ashley. So are they the right people to take over? I don't know. At the minute, I don't particularly care. Like, yeah, it's not the greatest. Like, I know there's probably going to be protests at St. James's, like the human rights people. I can't remember the name of the company. It begins with an A. Can't remember who they are, but they're the ones that were like putting statements out yesterday saying that the Premier League are a disgrace for letting this to go through. So I don't know. It's a bit of an awkward one, really. Like, on one hand, you don't want to say that you're happy because the Saudis have taken over because of who they are, because of their human rights. But on the other hand, you're just happy that we've got some money and we've got some funds and stuff. So it puts us in a little bit of an awkward situation because you don't want to get too happy without people going, oh, well, human rights and blah, blah, blah. Like, so yeah, it's a little bit tricky. And hopefully, I know they're trying to sort things out. Like, I know that like it's a different world over there. Like, that maybe is like a bit behind the times, but I know that they're trying to sort things out. That's why this deal was able to go through, because they stopped the piracy in the country by allowing beIN Sports back in. So they're trying to do things the right way. But a country like that, again, it's like Newcastle United. It's not going to happen overnight. Like, that maybe is a little bit behind the times. The maybes don't do things the way we do things in the Western world. But, you know, like, that's trying, and that's all we can really ask for. Like, people can't really hate us for being happy that this deal's gone through.
Yeah, I think it's just a bit of a jealousy, isn't it? You know, about looking at it, I think you've been through enough. I think you deserve to have a bit of a but I suppose another thing from their point of view is, you know, you've got the ground, you've got the fan base. You know, the fan base is massive, it's passionate. You know, a lot of those things are already there. You know, it just needs the investment, doesn't it? And I suppose where the investment comes in, we've already discussed about the community and, you know, the academy and things like this. But when we're looking at the squad in general, and I know you've mentioned already that you'd like to see them steadily do it, you know, do you actually think they will do a bit of a Robinho Man City sign in the January coming? Do you think that would be good, or? Come on.
Well, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I wouldn't be like, oh no, don't go and buy like a world-class player. Like, but like things didn't really work out with Robinho, did they? Like, he was too good for that team at the time. Like, I know we've got a few people in there like Sir Maximin and Callum Wilson who could compete with any of the top 6 clubs.
Yeah.
But so if we did go out and do that, then yeah, I'd be over the moon. I wouldn't be angry at it, of course, but I don't know. Like, it is a bit of a funny one. So yeah, like I'd like to just go about it the right way. And of course, like the financial fair play, we don't really want to tick anybody off. Like, Man City's had their struggles. They've been fined and had Champions League suspensions for this kind of thing. So I think that would be like doing it organically would be better for the club and putting the money, let's say before, like in the right places, because it's not just about what's on the field. It's massive. Like, it's right throughout the club that there's got to be millions, if not billions of pounds invested to take us the right way. Yeah, it has gone a mad way at Newcastle from, like I say, like where we used to be to where we are now. Like, just the way like the stadium is. And like, we have got the fan base, yeah, right. We have got the stadium, 52,000, still one of the biggest stadiums in the country. It just needs a mega makeover. Like, people are saying like, oh, do you want a new stadium if they knock it down and build a bigger one somewhere else? I don't particularly want that. Like, St. James's has got history and it's known for being like a city centre ground. Like, a lot of other football clubs have stadiums like on like the outskirts of the city. Like, St. James's is right in the heart of the city. It's a big enough stadium, right in the centre. It's got the fan base. It's got everything. It's just been run down. It needs a massive makeover. That'll cost a couple million to get it looking good again, right to where it needs to be. Yeah.
So $320 billion, I think the club will be valued at now. So, I mean, put that into context for the listeners. I think Man City are valued at 23. So, you know, I suppose something I was really interested in getting your thoughts on was, obviously all eyes are on Newcastle United now from a global perspective. Now that's going to bring more global fan bases in. Something I was quite interested in getting your thoughts on was, do you think that's going to be a good thing? You know, seeing all these global fan bases coming to Newcastle. Do you think that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing? You know, obviously, I think it's a good thing for Newcastle. It's going to bring more money into, you know, the economy and, you know, restaurants and pubs. You know, I think that's absolutely brilliant. But I suppose something that I've seen being a Liverpool fan is, you know, with a lot of more touristy fans and, you know, people go for a one-off game. Is that something that you've maybe had to think about at all, or?
I have, yeah. Like you're right. Like I've been to like a few other stadiums across the country. Like Old Trafford's one that rings out. Like everybody that you hear around the ground are like Chinese or German or Scandinavian. Like there doesn't seem to be many like local fans. Like places like I haven't actually been to Anfield in a long, long time, but like Stamford Bridge and the Emirates and stuff, like it's often very, very quiet. Like you just think like even the Emirates, actually, I remember last time I was there, I was looking around and it's got like fan bases from all over the world. It's got like flags and like the Saudi Gunas and like people from like Malaysia, Australia, like all over the place. So I don't mind. I think it's good for the club to have a bit more support because we have been a sleeping giants. Like we are a big club, and it's now finally time for people to wake up and realize that. So if people want to come and support us from afar, I think it'll be good, like you say, for the economy. If people are going to come and put like expenses into the club, like into the city, if the owners are going to start investing, if like pubs, restaurants, as you say, then I can only assume it's going to be a good thing. In a long time, will we end up like a Man United being a bit too touristy? Maybe, but you're gonna have to fight for tickets. Yeah. Like St James's is, like you say, like Newcastle fans are mad passionate. Like most of us have got season tickets, like 52,000. It's a big stadium, but there is bigger. So if people are going to come from far and wide to get a ticket, then fair play to you. But like, people are going to have more interest in this now. Like the Tottenham game, it says sold out for the first time in a long, long time. And for the rest of the season, even though the football might be rubbish, it's probably going to continue to sell out because there's going to be more interest and people are going to start applying for season tickets more now because next season or the season afterwards, whenever you can get your hands on one, I'm not sure how long the waiting list is, but there's going to be a lot more interest. So if people might struggle to get a ticket.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good for me.
Now you've got loads of money, mate. Any chance you'll get some lifts in that away end so we haven't got to walk up them stairs?
Yeah, I'll get on the phone to my man that night and let her know. But no, to be fair, like we've been trying to say that for years and years. I don't know if it's been Mike Ashley or whoever, but I know we would like away fans to be lowered. Like it is a ridiculous. I've been in level 7 on the other side. It's an absolute mission. It's awful. So yeah, I know we would like it to be lowered. I think it would create a better atmosphere, being like closer to like the home fans. I would like that, and I know most of our fans would like that. So hopefully it does happen, and hopefully you haven't got to climb as many stairs and get your binoculars out when you get to the top.
Just before you go, mate, where can our listeners catch you and the Magpie channel as well?
Yeah, so search for us at the Magpie Channel TV on YouTube. That's the only YouTube channel where you can find us. Follow us at the Magpie Channel on Instagram, and we are Magpie Channel _ on Twitter.
Happy days, mate. Just before you go, just a massive thank you for giving me time coming on. And genuinely, because I know how much frustration you've had and the fan base have had with Ashley, I made up for you. And so all the best with it as well.
Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it. We'll talk again next year when Mbappe comes.
If you enjoyed that episode and want to keep notified for future episodes, please make sure you subscribe, follow and share, and of course, leave us a 5-star rating. You can now follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, all at Go in the Match, to keep updated for future episodes and updates on the podcast.